Hello, I'm Kelly Kleinman, and welcome to the Car Motivators Winning Cultures Automotive Leaders Webcast. Today's guests are two pivotal members of Coastal Nissan. If you remember, we had Brooke English on a few weeks ago, and she referred to her cousin Brandon Brown, Coastal Nissan sales manager, and his cohort Ben Dameron the GSM. Well, we have both of them on today. Now, Brown is a right-handed hitter with a plus arm, plus speed, can hit for average and occasional power. Dameron couldn't give a damn about sports. Gentlemen, welcome.
That's actually pretty accurate.
Yeah, pretty good.
Well, that's just the start. But let's talk about your guys' backgrounds, because they're quite different, and you guys have pretty much merged, which is really an interesting career arc and path intercept, so to speak. But let's go there. And I'm going to start with Ben's, because it's pretty interesting. He's a graduate of Nuclear Power School. I believe the football team was the NPS Nukes, and the mascot's name was Adam, kind of a Buckeye, but his head was a giant atom with little protons and neutrons running around it and all sorts of stuff. Navy Nuclear Power Training Command. It was there that he received glowing praise. Ben, what led you from the Navy to Pawleys Island and Coastal Nissan, and what was your career path? What has it looked like since 2010? Your resume seems very disciplined, actually.
Yeah, so I was in the Navy in the Naval Nuclear Propulsion Program, and as we shared a little bit earlier, so I was born in South Korea, so I ran into some hurdles with dual citizenship and getting the appropriate clearance. So things there ultimately didn't work out due to things I don't believe was under my control, but so I definitely struggled a little bit in finding because I really had in my mind, hey, this is what I was going to do. And, one thing led to another. I was in Charleston, South Carolina for a good part of that training. And, I decided, man, I really liked Charleston. I was a little sheltered growing up, so I didn't travel a whole lot. And I loved the Charleston area. And, one of my coworkers at the time was like, hey, let's I've got a buddy in Myrtle Beach. I'm like, yeah, it's close enough. So that's kind of where I ended up. And then from there, just trying to find my way, and I saw an ad that Brandon's mom had posted at one point, essentially a BDC representative, and I was like, I think I can talk to people, and I definitely have an interest in cars, and I think that's how a lot of people kind of get started in the industry that weren't intending to do. Oh, I like cars, and I like people. Let's see what that's all about. And,
yeah.
I've always kind of had the work ethic of whatever it is that you do, just trying to go all in and learn as much as you can learn about whatever that space is. And, one opportunity led to another, and that's, it's kind of where I ended up. So
Started off in the BDC and then moved into finance, was it? And then on up
yeah,
to management.
Yep. So I was in BDC, or the internet department at the time, and it was definitely a challenge because of the viewpoint of all the other staff in the dealership at that time, and so it was an uphill battle, but again, just trying to learn as much as I could learn, and some people would say that I performed better than the internet sales manager.
What he's saying is that he set 3 times the appointments of his boss, and then there was no need for him to have a boss, essentially.
Yeah.
But something we're going to touch on, I think, a little later is really took the training seriously. So Brandon's mom actually spearheaded a lot of that phone training that I was doing, and just really took it very seriously, applied it. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle is, hey, I get the training, but then they don't ever do anything with it. They don't apply it.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, good idea, but then they don't do it.
You ever watch Seinfeld?
Yeah.
Yeah, Seinfeld, whenever they're doing the rental car, and he's the reservation, he's like, anybody can just take the reservation. It's a flying reservation that matters.
Right.
A lot of people love listening to a training, and it's like, oh, that'd be great to do. And then they leave the office and they do nothing with it. But Ben was the opposite, did exactly what the training said.
Sure. Yeah,
So,
that's true.
Yeah, I did that, and was presented an opportunity to try the finance department, and so I interviewed for that, applied for that, and just hey, I want to learn as much as I can, and I found hey, this is a really cool leadership role, where sure, maybe there's some opportunities beyond finance, but let me start leading people and we start training people and Brandon remembers a particular scenario where the current sales manager at the time was sitting at the desk, at his desk, and observing like 3 or 4 salespeople lined up outside of my finance office, waiting for numbers, or they wanted to work deals with me.
Yeah, well, it was essentially. So it's an interesting point. Like what Ben says, he was in BDC, then he went to finance, which his first day in finance was my first day here as a salesperson. My mom had told me the day before, Ben's going to be training you. And then my first day here, he gets promoted to finance and I don't have anybody to train me, which is really, our stories kind of coincide that way. We're so hungry for training because I didn't really get any. But when I was a salesperson and Ben was our finance manager, there was a line out of his door every day to get numbers, coaching, training, all this stuff. And the sales manager really had nothing to do. So it was, again, one of those things where just like when he was in BDC, he was so much more productive than his boss that it was kind of like, well, let's just promote him again.
Yeah. It's interesting how that works in sales organizations, not just the automotive, whereby someone's a great performer, then they turn them into a manager, and guess what? There goes the performance. And you become top heavy. But this definitely isn't the case in with your particular dealership. Apparently you put the right guy in charge of finance, that's for sure. And then you took on the role as trainer, and from that standpoint, you did a lot of research on it and were able to provide that kind of training and education to the sales folks. But let's talk about that. You basically entered the business evidently at the same time Brooke did. Or right around the same time, and quite frankly, you weren't very serious about the business at all, according to Brooke. But then there was a source of motivation. What got you off the launch pad and inspired you?
I think I just got tired of coming to work and hating what I was doing, and I was just anything you do. Like I played golf yesterday for the first time in a year and a half, and I had, other than the company, I had almost no fun. Because I don't practice at golf, and so I was just awful. So it's obviously no fun. Well, the friends I played with, 2 of them shot in the 70s. So of course today they're on vacation. What do they want to do? They want to go play golf again. And I couldn't get back to work. So very similar to my sales career, I did not look forward to coming to work because I didn't know what I was doing. So I had a job in Charleston. I got fired from that job, and then I was looking for another job, and I was just talking to my mom one day. She said, "You got to try selling cars." I just thought about it. I was like, whatever, I'll do that for a year until I figure out what I want to do. Then the year passed and I was still terrible at it. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to leave it until I'm good at it. And so I guess I'm still here trying to get good at it, but 11 years later. So
yeah,
it's really cool. It's like his mom, obviously was telling me like, hey, I've got my son coming on board, and really she wanted me to train him and take him under my wing, as far as what I knew at that time. And then, like you said, it was moved into a different direction. And so, like, I just remember her telling me, like, hey, he's really good. He's this type of person that's going to take something and find a way to make it better, make it the best that it can possibly be. And, me, like, not knowing him, I don't think I've ever really had talked to him. I'm like, okay, like, I'm hearing what she's saying, but I don't have anything to base that off of. And then like now fast forward, like, I mean, she literally predicted everything that he was going to do.
I don't know, people that might listen to this might think what I'm going to say next is crazy, and Ben can attribute it, or he can confirm this, but I was overlooked. He was too. I was overlooked severely for years because there was never a plan for me to get in this business. There was always a plan for like Brooke and her brothers to get in it, but there was not room for me. So when I got in it and I started off and I was just so bad at it. And I say so bad, like there was other guys that were just as good as me. You had to sell 7 cars a month to keep your job. I sold right around 8.5. There was just no motivation for me because I was still honestly so depressed because of the job I lost. That's what I wanted to do my whole life. But then came back and like I really was. I'm not going to say that, he can confirm it. I was overlooked for a long time. Yeah.
Well, do you think that the auto industry is kind of a collect-all for folks who maybe didn't have direction early on, or maybe
nobody grows up
even?
Yeah, nobody grows up wanting to do this. Like if he and I were to go to a local high school for a career day, there'd probably be nobody at our table.
What do people, and people are like, oh, I think I always want to be a car salesman. We're like, what?
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I would believe
That's my take on it. You end up there, but what path did you take to fall into it? Because nobody
Right.
wakes up unless you're, born into it from a family standpoint. So this is going to be a jump ball question for both of you guys, and I'd like to know what the biggest challenge that you currently are facing in moving inventory. Is it high interest rates, expensive used inventory, optimized CPA, lack of optimized usage of CRM by sales staff? What's the thorn in your side right now?
I mean,
That's a
I
tough
think
one. That's a tough one because we don't really have that problem.
I think we would both agree that because we've actually talked about that before.
Yeah.
Before today, and it's salespeople.
Yeah.
Like that is our number one hurdle from selling more cars.
Yeah.
Salespeople.
Because and we have been in the boat before where we've struggled to move inventory, but not right now. It's we are on this volume train and the gross will catch up. But we're in 220 groups and we'll see these people that have these monster front end numbers and you go look at the amount they sold and it's not that many. But we would rather sell a lot more cars, get finance more opportunities, service more opportunities, reconditioning more opportunities, take more people out of the marketplace. And then what we do is we attract salespeople from competition that say, man, how many are they selling? Look at every time I ride by their lot, they got cars parked on the roof. They don't have enough room.
Interesting. Out here, there's an inventory shortage. That's why I always like getting input from people and insights from people all over across the country. That's a lot of the purpose of this is to see, what the winning cultures are doing.
I don't think it's the inventory shortage. I think it's just the people in charge of buying cars just refuse to pay what it takes to buy a car. Like there's cars there to buy.
Tell them about the right car thing.
Yeah, it's so we adopted this philosophy of don't worry about buying the car right as far as money, but focus more on just buying the right car.
Buying the right car.
Money to buy the right car because it will turn, it will sell. We will get it financed and we will get a trade-in. Just by sheer numbers, like that will happen.
I just sold a Prius to a few months ago to Car Trackers. They're not quite on the East Coast yet. They're just here on the West Coast. It took 24 hours to turn around, about 46 hours for me to get a check, and they picked up my vehicle relatively soon thereafter. And when he started off, he was buying 800 cars a month. So the inventory is there. You're right. I totally agree.
Yeah. Well, ask an inventory shortage. My response usually is there is a shortage of inventory that we cannot control what we get, which would be new. There's not a shortage of the ones.
Yeah, there's plenty of rides out there, but getting the new ones, the right new ones that move on en masse are a little tougher. I know we just picked up a Civic, and there were quite a few Civics at this particular Honda dealership, but some of those are all just the entry level vehicles. I got it for my kid. Here's an individual question, and we'll go with Brandon first on this one. How do you establish sales goals, and how do you hold yourself accountable in meeting those goals on a monthly basis? Do you set the goals based on year over year numbers, or do you project performance milestones and other factors?
Yeah, really good question, because I think you can ask 100 dealerships and get 100 answers.
Yeah.
But being a former athlete, former coach, the first goal I start with is the store goal. Okay. And then I get everybody on a team mindset that it's all about the store. So I set the store goal. Then I ask people, how many of those can you contribute to? And then it gets people not just thinking about themselves, it gets them thinking about the whole store. So I set the store goal, and then I'll ask people how many they can contribute to that. And then it sometimes ends up being, oh, well, our goal was whatever, 100, and all of y'all's numbers combined are 123. So that's now the goal. But the other thing I do whenever I'm with salespeople is I start with their income. Okay, so I start, how much money do you feel like would be a great job this year? Now, first of all, we handle that kind of in the interview. Anybody that says 50, 60 grand, that's just probably not somebody that's going to work with us. But like I have a guy that wants to make 300 grand this year, and he'll probably get really close to it. But in order for him to make 300 grand, what's he need to make a month? 25 grand. So that means that he needs to average X amount on his commissions, which means he needs to sell this many cars. And then you work the goal. Like I work the goal from the bank account to the lot, not.
Do you have them set, are they mostly just financial goals, or do you get deeper into what their life work balance looks like and what some of their personal goals are?
So
is it all business? Is it all, and I'm just asking, I'm just out of curiosity. Is it mostly business generated?
Yeah, I get it all that. Like what we do is we've actually changed the way we are always tinkering with how we interview people. And now what we've done is we have started with our interview is teaching people about money. I was actually telling my friend this yesterday playing golf. If I can teach people about money and how most of what they heard growing up is probably wrong about money, then it kind of blows their brain and makes them go, man, I need money. Instead of, hey, let me teach you how to sell. Like, I need to teach you about money first to where it makes you realize, man, I need a lot of money. And then the next question they're going to ask is, how do I get a lot of money? You seem like you have a lot of money. And then they look to us and they say, well, this is what we do when we sell people. We do this. Now they're listening to us because they want a lot of money. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but we reversed it from teaching people how to sell and then asking them their financial goals. We teach them what they need their financial goals to be, and then teach them how to sell to reach those. So I have this guy that came over from a rival store, I call it rival, and he was averaging, what was he averaging, Brent? 16 a month. He was averaging 16 cars a month. And he comes over to us and we teach him about money. And then now he has talked his wife out of her current job and is starting her own business. And because he has his money goal now, so she started her own business. And he went from selling 16 cars a month to 26 cars a month. And now he's in finance. When he brought another guy over who was selling 25 cars a month, taught him about money. Now he's averaging 43 a month. And
sold 50 last month.
Yes, was 51 last month.
Yeah. That's remarkable.
A service advisor who was whatever going to make 60 grand a year, and he's on pace for 64 this month. Because I'm trying to teach people about money.
Yeah.
What's really cool about this, I had not planned on talking about this, but so I have an 18-year-old son, okay? And he started working here, like taking some pictures for our inventory and, just detail on the, during summertime and whatnot. And so when he turned 18, he decided that he really likes working with cars. And so he wants to pursue working in the service department. So he graduated high school a little early and started as a lube technician in our service department. Now, I had hoped previous to that he would want to get into sales, and he just didn't really express much of an interest in that. He really wanted to work on cars. And so he's done that for about 4 months. And like what Brandon was saying about teaching these people about money. Now, here's a very impressionable, young adult.
Sure.
About money. And so we're having this money discussion one day, and it's just like, it just clicks for him. It's like, for him to make the amount of money and accomplish the goals he wants to accomplish, it's going to take X amount of time in the service department. And then he realizes in the sales industry, like, man, I have a lot more opportunity in a much shorter amount of time. I want to learn how to sell. And it's not the desire to sell that came first. It's the understanding of money that came first. And so now, like, he is working as a sales assistant to learn how to sell. And he is coming to see Brandon or myself and, the other manager every day. Hey, what can I learn today to be able to sell sooner?
Yeah, he spends his lunch break in my office, unless he's with you. Yeah, asking questions like, "Teach me some word tracks. Like, teach me how to close people."
Sure.
He wanted to learn finance the other day. I'm like, "You haven't even sold a car yet." So he was like, "I don't even know how finance works." So I took him in the finance office and I just pulled up a deal and I just went through the whole deal and did my whole presentation, printed the paperwork and everything because he just wanted to see it. Well, I'm not going to tell somebody who wants to see it, don't worry about that. If you want to see it, man. If that's what's going to make you hungry, do it.
Yeah.
How many people are doing that? And I think when we drop them in our culture of, we're talking about this stuff, because I think one of the biggest lies in a dealership is like, oh, you got a salesperson that's not doing well, tell them to go buy something. Why would you do that? Why would you add debt to this guy? And all he's going to do is use the extra money he's making or she's making to pay all this stupid debt. All it does is makes the manager rich. Why don't you invest money so he can make money when he's sleeping, so he can actually have a better life?
Yeah. I don't think there are all that many dealership trainers or even managers who work in dealerships who necessarily take the approach that you do. It's interesting. It's like any business owner or anybody who's in a business class in college should learn how to work the internet for visibility, for any kind of business that they're working for or with. And I think that the same thing goes true with what you're talking about, and it's teaching them how important it is to make money and what the opportunity is over there, and then how to utilize the money and have it work, for itself, aside from you just busting your ass to sell cars. That's a unique approach.
We actually learned it from, we do our training with Grant Cardone. He has a saying, creativity follows commitment.
Yeah. Well, I think, go ahead. I was going to say Cardone's approach is 100% on the monetary level. Yeah. But let's talk about you two guys here real quick, because I get this really interesting dynamic. And I when I think of dynamics and your relationship, I think of the dynamic duo. Are you guys like a Batman and Robin? A little bit different than the typical GSM and SM relationship? And who's Batman and who's Robin?
That's a good one.
So I would say no, because, that does kind of imply kind of one's in charge and one assists the other. Like, I think he has a certain skill set, like with people. Yeah. Really, I don't have that same skill set. And I think I have a skill set that complements what he does. So while, yes, on paper, like, okay, he's SM and I'm GSM, that's not what this relationship is like, Yeah. I firmly believe that I cannot do what I have done in that time space without Brandon. There's no way. It's an incredible amount of support, but it's also incredible amount of insight. And it's like a lot of things that I do were his ideas. That's a really good idea, and I'll just implement them.
So to piggyback on that, I can't do what I do without him, because he's a really good executor of ideas. So whereas Batman and Robin are fighting the same battle, a lot of times he'll go fight one battle and I'll go fight another, and then we come together and say, all right, which one's more important?
Yeah.
And we just worked with our finance guys a couple of days ago on this one particular thing, but it's an idea that I found, but he's the one that did most of the talking to them about it. But it was, honestly, most of it was my idea, but then he's the one that can execute it with them better than I can. So you go do it. But there might be something else that I'd execute better, which is, I'm a good thinker. He's a good doer.
Yeah. More like maybe Starsky and Hutch.
Sure. A little for us.
I remember back in the day, everybody wanted that Gran Torino. Of course, it wasn't even a performance car, but it seemed like one on TV. Here's a jump ball question. We're talking about training and coaching and such. And this is a jump ball question. What's the difference between training and coaching, and how do you set you already talked about how you set your sales staff up for success. How long are your training sessions? Is it ongoing? How does that work out for you guys?
I think the difference in training and coaching is training is before a battle and coaching is during a battle. Okay, so we train every morning between 8:45 and 9:15. No later than 9:15, no later than 8:45. So everybody knows. I say, again, I love sports. I say this about Clemson and South Carolina. If you know anything about college football, which Ben doesn't, but South Carolina for years, before their game starts, they play the song 2001: A Space Odyssey. They have smoke and the team runs through the tunnel. Okay, at Clemson, they play Tiger Rag. They run down the hill. They touch the rock. They run down the hill, and then they play the game. No matter who's the coach, no matter what year, no matter what the situation is, if it's a home game, that's what they do. And that's what we tell people that we hire here is no matter who's in charge, who's off, who's on vacation, whatever, at 8:45 every day, you're going to have a meeting where you get better.
Yeah.
So coaching would be during a deal. Hey, go say this, like loading someone's lips.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like training should be done on an individual level. Like the salespeople should train on their own, but it's kind of hard to coach yourself, right? So they can train themselves the content that we have, but you know, we as leaders and managers can coach them in real time and reviewing the play, so to speak. Not sports, but yeah, just reviewing that deal and things like that. So definitely a big difference between the two for sure.
Along the same lines, what are some of the most common limiting factors that you see affecting sales personnel?
He's going to say follow up. He's a follow up king. I'm going to say mindset. They don't realize how much money they can make. And when I talk about money, it is not just so I can stack a bunch of money in my account and go on cool vacations and buy cool clothes and cars. We had a meeting 2 weeks ago that was talking about the money you're making. What are you doing with it? Are you making anybody else better in your community? Are you helping out with any type like hospital or nonprofit organizations? And so we talked about that. Like we work really hard, long hours, but if you're only doing it just to feed you and your family, like you're missing the point. You need to go make other people better. So I would say the limiting factor would be mindset, how much one human being actually can accomplish if they give all their effort.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think yes, I think follow up is as far as a skill that salespeople tend to lack or not focus on, that prevents them from being just massively successful is definitely follow up. I think there's just, I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe. Of course, that's how I was brought up into the industry, was just the importance of follow up. But I do agree, if you don't have the mindset of why you need to follow up,
that's it.
Then what are you following up for?
Yeah, because if you want to, if somebody's ghosting you, the guy I played golf with yesterday just got into sales 2 months ago, and he said this guy ghosted him, and then the guy finally called him back. I said, if he's ghosted you, you're not committed enough. You should have sent that guy a selfie video, something creative, picture of, hey, I was thinking of this, I saw this and thought of you. Because if the only reason you wouldn't follow up with him is you don't believe in yourself or your goals aren't big enough.
Mm-hmm. Well, even with great training and support, sales and even service techs fall through the cracks for any number of reasons. What do you do to help retain talent when you sense someone with high potential is what they now call quiet quitting, underperforming?
Yeah.
Well, I think we're in a fortunate situation, at least in sales, that we I have not really experienced that as far as our staff goes.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is we have staff that have had staff that weren't a good fit, and we discovered that we're like, we need to get them out. Either they need to adjust their thinking. Sometimes, I mean, I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but we've taken 20 and 30 car a month salespeople, and we've collectively said, this may not be working out, and then they leave, usually on their own, but kind of like because we're like, okay,
mutual feeling.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, we've grown since then, like on 3 separate occasions.
Mm-hmm.
I think outside looking in, people are like, you're crazy for not keeping that 20 car guy, that 30 car guy.
Mm-hmm.
But
because if they're unhappy, they're not just keeping that to themselves.
Right.
Yeah. And we had one guy in one building that was a little unhappy. He pieced out, but he had spread his negativity to this other guy in my building, and then he pieced out. But both of them, we were like kind of pushing a little bit that maybe your time is coming to an end unless you can do this, and then neither one did. And then both months that they left, we sold more cars because neither one of them were following up that much.
Oh yeah, that's that quiet quitting thing. I think that's what it's all about.
I think to prevent the quiet quitting thing, on these people that have a lot of potential, like like you're saying, you have to train and reinforce that mindset of like what I call compete to win, not just compete to whatever, to survive or compete to get to 20 or compete for a salesperson. It's just
Like here's how you can get me to quit. Is if I worked at a place that did not educate me. So for me, the first 3 years working here, I was not being educated, and I was always looking for a reason to leave. But I was getting a little better every year. But then I finally got a little bit of training and went from selling 8.5 cars to like 12.5, and then got more training and went from 12 to 20, 22, 23. Well, now I think what keeps a couple of these guys that we have that are really high performers, what makes them want to stay here is that every morning at 8:45, they get another education. They get more of an education. We actually have our salespeople lead meetings sometimes. But the number one thing that would make me want to leave is a boring sales meeting every morning and just walking around saying, all right, what you got working? What you got working? What you got working? And I got to sit and listen to 15 other people, what they have working. And it does nothing for me but waste my time.
Yeah. It's almost go ahead, Ben.
Opportunity is what keeps those high performers from quitting or leaving. Just like having the discussions of, hey, this is what's next for you, and here's what you need to get there. And just that clear communication.
Yeah. I think what you find too, at least what we found from time to time, is that there's personal issues that might not be based in the dealership. They might be based at home. And being able to understand some of those personal issues can sort of turn those situations around. On the other hand, I've been part of sales organizations, door-to-door disability insurance in Texas with this accent. And that was a lot of fun. But I remember sitting in those sales meetings at Denny's in the morning before we all went out into our territories, and guys showing checks, and that can be intimidating too, right? When you see guys flashing the big checks and you're sitting there struggling, and nonetheless, we have found that some of these issues are stemming from other issues that are not related to the direct business. For me, it was definitely that situation. Let's get off of that for the time being. Let's get into social media, because it's so important. There's so much that goes on in social media, and it's such a great place which to draw leads. What kind of social media strategy do you use in concert with your sales staff to pull in leads off the internet? Is it organized under one corporate umbrella of the dealership, or does everyone just eat what they kill?
This is something I feel we can get a lot better on. This is a major opportunity for growth for us.
Yeah.
So if you're doing another podcast with somebody that does a really good job of this, I'm interested in listening to it.
Well, I'll tell you this right now. We one of our dealerships has something called Tier 4. And what it is, basically, it's a structured social media sales program. It develops each salesperson as their own unique brand under the umbrella of the dealership. So they do all the heavy lifting, and it reduces the advertising budget. I know you guys don't really do any advertising, but it works. And actually what we do is we post, I'll give you an example. This is Sansone Jr., 66 Auto Mall. There's a guy, Mark Vernalia, and he is Mark the pie guy, and he gives away a pie with every car that he sells. And those are all social media posts. And now people in his area know him as, they want to come in and, get a pie from Mark the pie guy. And it sounds crazy and it sounds ridiculous, but they actually have it to where you build a small website for each salesperson. They become their own business under the umbrella. I don't do it myself, but I can absolutely hook you up with them, and they can pretty much show you how to do it. It's actually quite effective. It's surprisingly effective. But discussion for another time. Brandon, you are obviously a voracious advocate of training and people development. Have you taken your athletic drive and repurposed it into the automotive industry? Because it certainly seems like you have.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because all I ever wanted to do was be a coach. My whole life, I wanted to coach. Like, I was obsessed with things that people probably could care less about. Like, when I was growing up in high school, there's this newspaper came out every Monday morning during football season called the High School Sports Report. And I would be the first one in school that day, and I would run to the football coach's office and get it. And I would know every player in the state. I would know their stats. I would know who won and lost. Like, I was obsessed with it. And my friends make fun of me for having a new obsession every 2 months or so. But my obsession that has lasted for like 8 years now has been sales and how can I get better at it. And I think whenever you just try to better yourself, people watch you get better. And I think that's what happened with me. So go back, like my granddad started the dealership 43 years ago, then he dies 10 years later. My mom and my uncle take over. My mom is the one that kind of like championed this training mindset in me, because she was doing it through Tom Stuker, and she ran this phone room, and like she always taught me about training. So then, like I said, I finally got some training, got better. But now my passion in life is just helping somebody that does not know what they're doing in this business to help them get better at it every day and just watch their eyes get opened so that they can take the money they're making and go make their community better. Go donate some money to help somebody out. Go sponsor a Little League baseball team, or go give your money to St. Jude's or whatever. But yeah, I feel like I've taken that coaching mindset from sports into saying, like, all right, we're going to have standards. We're going to have these core values that we have written. We're going to practice every day. We're going to, high school football, you have your game on Friday, right? When we learn a new word track for the week, we teach it on Monday, then practice it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then they have to test out for the game with Ben on Friday. And then they get used to close. Unless they learn it sooner than that. But yeah, I would say the sports mindset has kind of traveled over into the automotive business.
Well, let's just touch on that real quick. Let's just get a little bit personal now. You're married, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you have children?
No kids.
No kids yet. Guess who's going to be that Little League coach? Right there.
Yeah.
Right. Brandon's going to be I'll do it. I'll jump in. And if I was a little kid, I'd want to have you as my coach. Ben, what is your biggest challenges at GSM, and what worries you the most?
I think my biggest challenge is that I don't have somebody to train me, as far as like, hey, this is what a GSM does. But I also think like that's a good thing because like I have this open mind, and so I might do things that a normal GSM would, and I think that's great. So as far as what do I think? What was the second part of the question? What some challenges?
What worries you the most?
What worries me the most?
At the end of the month, maybe. I'm just throwing that out there.
I think that's kind of what makes me a little different is I don't really worry about a whole lot. Like I just don't stress out about it. But that doesn't change it doesn't change any amount of drive.
I can honestly say in 11 years I've worked with Ben, he may have had some bad days. I have never been able to tell. Never. And I used to be the opposite. You could tell if I had a bad morning. I mean, I wore my emotions on both sleeves. And I finally had a trainer that came in from Ethos or finance. And he said, he was from Oklahoma. He's a big country guy. And he just said, brother, I'm going to tell you something I've heard about you. I said, okay. He said, I heard that one day you're here, one day you're here, one day you're here, one day you're here. He said, I'm just telling you, I ain't dealing with it. And from that day, I've never worn my emotions on my sleeve because it made me so mad that I said, somebody who's never met me, who lives in a different time zone, knew I had a up and down attitude. And so I just changed it. But he was always a great example for me because you could never tell when he's doing bad.
Yeah. Well, the reason I asked that question is because I was talking to the coach from your area. I don't want to say which college. And I said, when it comes to, your option year, when your contract's up, what level worry are you, 1 to 10? And he thought about it for a second. He goes, 12. So I would assume that it's a good question to ask because, you're a dealership that seems to be, moving on all 8 cylinders. But Brandon, I'm going to ask you the same question since you wear your emotions on both sleeves. What worries you the most?
I worry a little bit about the future of a finance department in a dealership.
We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that in a minute.
Yeah, that's fine. That's the thing I think about.
Interesting that you brought that up because we talked to Brooke about that as well. Let's, you guys have crystal balls? You guys know any gypsies? I'm going to ask you a predict the future question. Okay. If you want to go out and grab your crystal ball, I'm sure you have one. It's not the same thing as a snow globe, but where do you see the dealership model? You mentioned you were worried a little bit about the finance department or, where that's going to be. Where do you see the dealership model in 8 years? Will we be on a subscription model? Will we all be plugged in? Will dealerships essentially be repair shops because China will have ratcheted down chip production after they take over Taiwan? Where are we going to be?
Interested to hear your answer.
Yeah, I think this is part of the I just don't worry about it because some of it is beyond my control. So when, that time comes and we face that challenge, like we'll just figure it out. I think that's what's cool about the auto industry.
Mhm.
I've only been in it for a relatively short amount of time, when you look at the big picture. But think about how many disruptive things have happened in the auto industry, and they just figured it out. It's just a really good community of people, and we all learn from each other, and we tweak it and change it based on our specific area, and we'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm. But you don't have any Nostradamus-like prediction. I think Brandon's been looking. He's got his head on the chin. He's thinking. He's got some ideas.
That's so up his alley because he just does not worry about it.
He's your perfect yin to your yang.
We're just we'll bring up this thing, and he has this little Ben face. He just goes, I've seen him go discipline somebody. I'm like, what are you going to say to him? He's like, figure it out when I get in there.
Yeah. I think your parents probably are pretty calm too, eh, Ben?
Actually, no.
No? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, your prediction. Consult your gypsy, Brandon. Where are we going to be in 8 years?
I think there's been a couple of disruptors in the car business, like you said. For my time, the internet just getting really big. Obviously, COVID was one that some people figured out, some people didn't. The people that did really, really, really profited. The ones that didn't are probably out of business. But I'm going to go back to finance. I think if you look at, do y'all have Chick-fil-A in California?
Oh, we do.
Okay. Huge in the South, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do more drive-through business than they do sit-down business. I really think they could care less about their showroom, about their sit-down restaurant.
Their showroom, right?
Care less.
Agreed.
Chick-fil-A in our town, well, I wish we had one in our town. It's like 15 minutes. But they just went under construction recently to widen the drive-through. Okay. And my wife said, "Oh, I bet their store's going to get bigger." I said, "I bet the dining room stays the exact same size." The dining room didn't move 1 square foot. It stayed the exact same size, but they double laned the drive-through. Yeah. And it's because the more years that go by, the more impatient Americans become. And if we, as in the automotive industry, don't figure out how to make a deal happen faster, I think those people, hopefully not us, but those people will get left behind. And I think the biggest roadblock in speed is finance. Okay. We have heard of stores that do the one touch, you stay with the salesperson the whole time. I think a couple of reasons people hate that is I hate getting introduced to another guy or girl. I hate having to be turned over. I hate having to sit and wait. We're running into the issue now. We have 2 finance people. When one of them's off, it's a slow day here. That's a problem. How do we speed that up? That's to me, I think if you look at 8 years, you may have some dead space in your building and figure out what you need to do in the finance office.
Interesting. There's a pizza on the line. We're nearly done with the interview, by the way. There's a pizza at stake here. I'm gonna ask you 2 questions. Each one of you gets 1 question. We're gonna probably have to wait a little while to see if Brandon guesses right. But Ben, this should be an easy one for you. We're gonna go with Brandon first. Brandon, who's gonna win the World Series this year?
Oh, geez. Well, actually, this is funny. I saw this guy on Twitter yesterday. He's a Braves fan, and he has correctly predicted the last 6 Super Bowl champions. And he has listed out who's going to win the next 4. Okay. He also did the same with the World Series. He correctly predicted the Braves to win it in 2021. Me and Brooke went to that game on Halloween, Game 5. We could have wrapped it up, but we didn't.
Yeah.
But based on what I read from him yesterday, the Yankees.
Yeah. I have a single degree of separation from both teams. My uncle actually invested with Steinbrenner in 1973 or 4, 50 grand. So he was a part owner of the Yankees, and he's from Cleveland, if you can even believe that. And then Ryan, I know, and I was an Indian fan. I am an Indian fan. And then Ryan Klesko, my cousin was handling his marketing as his agent, and we went down to San Diego I went there to get bats for autographs and, for my collection. And he goes, "Oh, you probably don't like me too much." I go, "Why?" He goes, "Well, I had 2 home runs against the Indians in the 95. I go, "Yeah, you're right. I don't." That was when the Braves wanted to. He was an awesome guy. Okay. All right. So we're going to go with the Yankees. I don't know that they have the pitching staff. Maybe they strike out a little too much, but let's see. They certainly could be it. So there's a pizza. What do we like on it? Do we like mushrooms, sausage, pepperoni?
Very plain, very plain. Just pepperoni.
Pepperoni. Okay. Ben. Okay. I'm going to make note of this, and I will be in touch with you. Ben, was Fukushima more radioactive than Chernobyl, and by how much? Trick question. Was Fukushima more radioactive than Chernobyl, and by how much?
Well, I mean, just by you asking by how much, I mean, the answer would be yes. But I think Chernobyl that was the absolute worst disaster ever. So, I mean, I think Chernobyl was more radioactive.
By how much?
I wouldn't even know how to guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably something ridiculous, like by 10 times.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. You nailed it. You wait a minute. Did I send you I sent you the question. You saw the question.
No, I had no idea what you're going to ask me.
Did you show him the question? Brandon? Unbelievable. The trick question was Fukushima more radioactive, and by how much? Supposedly giving you that Fukushima must have been more radioactive. Was not. It was Chernobyl 10 times. I'm going to get your address at the end of this, and we'll say, what do you like on your pizza? It's coming today or tomorrow. When let's see, you guys have. When's your lunch? Have you already had it?
It's Saturday, tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay. We'll get that. Send me your favorite pizza place in the area. Are you going to be working tomorrow, Ben?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Pizza coming to you. I'll order it. That's unbelievable. That was remarkable. Any last words, gentlemen? Go ahead.
Interviewed a guy one time. He was talking about he used to he used to sing and stuff like that. He was saying in his interview, he was like, "I've been under more pressure than you could ever imagine in your whole life. Nothing you've ever experienced." And Ben stopped. Ben, what'd you say?
Yeah, I said, "Well, so what's the worst thing that could happen to you?" And he goes, "Oh man, if I'm in a concert and I forget the words, I mean, I just people would be staring at me." I said, "I mean, man, if I messed up under pressure, like hundreds of people would die in a submarine under hundreds of feet of water. Like, talk about pressure.
Yeah,
Unbelievable, unbelievable, very true." Any last words, gentlemen?
No, I think both of our success stories could be, again, like you might not. I know it's my family store, but I was a little overlooked in the very beginning. He was definitely overlooked too. And I think that being overlooked kind of drove us to want to be successful. And really I think kind of having a standard for what we want done and just not moving off of it. That's what we want done is what we think is the best. And so that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, definitely get clear on your goals and your vision. Mm-hmm. I mean, it goes a long ways.
Now, if you can have a partner like this that you don't have jealousy for, like there's nothing he could accomplish that would make me jealous.
Same.
Nothing.
Yeah, it's the dynamic duo. That's it. It's Ben Dameron, it's Brandon Brown, and I want to thank both of you guys for joining me on the Automotive Leaders Winning Cultures webcast on the Car Motivators Growing Media Network. I wish you Godspeed and much success in the future, and have a hell of a weekend. And I'll be sending you that pizza tomorrow. Looking forward to it. I just need a picture of you receiving the pizza. Okay? It's on its way. Gentlemen, have a great Friday. Thank you for joining. All right.